In the late 1870s, the Fisk Jubilee Singers famously launched a worldwide tour that saved their struggling school from financial ruin. We owe a lot to the Singers for our modern-day branding as Music City. As the story goes, once Britain's Queen Victoria heard this trailblazing choir, she remarked that they must come from a city of music. In the 41 years that I've lived in Music City, I've interviewed a lot of people. And sometimes, after the video project is through, those recordings end up in a box on a shelf. And that's a shame. First of all, if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background. I'm digging into my archive to share a conversation that taught me a lot about a man, the music he loved, and the tradition he served to his dying day.
I am Dr. Paul Kwami. I went to school here from 1983 to 1985 as a music student, and during those years I sang with the Fisk Jubilee Singers. While in search for a school in the late 70s, I met a missionary who was a member of the United Church of Christ. I told him of my desire to experience the American educational system, and the only school he suggested was Fisk. And therefore, I applied to Fisk and gained admission. So that's how I got to Fisk. But it was not because of the Fisk Jubilee Singers. Honestly, I did not know about the Fisk Jubilee Singers until I became a student here. There's nowhere in this world that anybody can claim the Negro spirituals. There are spirituals in other parts of the world, but when we talk about Negro spirituals, I believe that they are American songs which were actually introduced to the world by the Fisk Jubilee Singers.
It's Banner and Company. I'm Demetria Kaladimos. A little more than 3 years ago, while working on a documentary project about the demise of local music venues, filmmaker Patrick Sheehan and I sat down with Dr. Paul Kwami. He was marking his 28th year directing the Fisk Jubilee Singers, and he'd notched a number of milestones with the group, winning a Grammy, touring in Africa, and playing stages as celebrated as Carnegie Hall. But believe it or not, Dr. Kwami and his choir were a little antsy. They were about to sing for the first time in one of the smallest places around, a tiny spot with a huge reputation, Nashville's Bluebird Cafe.
So we have a 150-year-old institution and a 40-year-old institution coming together to give Nashville another great moment.
Great day, the righteous marching, great day. God's gonna build up Zion's wall. God's gonna build up Zion's wall.
These are very unique songs. There are spirituals in other parts of the world, but when we talk about Negro spirituals, I believe that they are American songs. Fisk Jubilee Singers used the power and beauty of their music to win the love of people. They had a mission to raise funds for the university, for Fisk University, but as a result of that, they sang to the hearts of people. The importance of music. Music brings people together.
The history-making shows sold out quickly, but we got a chance to watch a bit of rehearsal.
Introduction.
I gotta roll, you gotta roll. All of God's children gotta roll. Children gotta roll.
Now, bassist, can you sing that again, that line? You know what I mean? Are you ready? Can I hear it? And?
Roll, children gotta roll.
Okay, let's try once more. Ready? And?
Roll, children gotta roll.
So we have to be happy, so I need to see that on your faces, okay? Introduction.
On stage, Dr. Kwami was as much a historian as he was a choral director, explaining to audiences the richness of the group's repertoire, how spirituals transcended mere song.
These were songs that the slaves used as survival tools during the time of slavery. They communicated among themselves with the songs, through the songs. They expressed their emotions through the songs. They expressed their faith through these songs. But they also used these songs, especially during the Underground Railroad system. So these are very unique songs. Sometimes people call plantation songs, within which we find Jubilee songs, which are generally the first ones, and then sorrow songs. As they prepared for the first tour, George White, the founder and first director of the ensemble, taught the students to sing Western classical music. I believe he did so because he wanted his audience, the audiences, to be impressed and then be able to give donations. They got to Oberlin, Ohio, and they were placed in a balcony instead of on a stage in front of the audience. The singers started singing the Western classical music as George White had taught them, and people did not pay any attention to them. People started walking around, talking, disturbing. Wow. So the first Jubilee singers said, if these people will not listen to us when we sing, then let us sing our own songs to ourselves. And then they started singing Steal Away to Jesus. All of a sudden, there was silence, and people walked back to their seats, sat down, and listened.
At the Bluebird performance, Dr. Kwami told the crowd how that song served as a sort of secret telegraph.
Slaves would go home after working on the plantations and cross a river to hear an Indian preacher. After a while, the slave masters realized that if this was permitted to continue, the slaves would probably run away. So the slave masters attempted to put a stop to it. One person would start singing Steal Away. The next person close by would hear the song, pick it up, sing, and all of a sudden, all of them would start singing the song Steal Away on the plantation, and other songs, of course. The slave master would always think, these are just Africans making music. But the slaves were telling themselves, tonight, when we get to our homes, we will run away and go and hear the Indian preacher.
history. This is the first time that this group has performed here at the Bluebird.
That was fairly good. As soon as we were introduced, I knew we had a good audience. I knew it. I knew it by the volume of the applause. And whenever we find ourselves in that sort of situation, it energizes us. But it also gave me a relaxed atmosphere to talk with them. It was more like a family situation. We will sing for you a song composed by my father. It's a very simple song entitled Kekeli to Kekelime, which means literally light generates light. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
It's Banner and Company, and you're listening to an archival interview with the late Dr. Paul Kwami, who passed away in September of 2022. We'll be right back.
Imagine this. The best pasta sauce you have ever tasted sits abandoned on a plate. Wasted sauce. That is a tragedy. If only you had used Barilla al Bronzo pasta. Its bronze-cut texture holds your sauce and scoops up every last drop. The Italians call that scarpetta. Capture sauce the Italian way. Barilla al Bronzo. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
A new exhibit just opened at the National Museum of African American Music downtown. Jubilation tells the story of the Fisk Jubilee singers, from the African roots of the music they performed to their Grammy Award and beyond.
This is amazing. Kind of like at a loss for words. I'm just trying to take it all in.
Marco Patton teaches at Belmont University now, but he is one of the many former students that Dr. Kwami taught and continued to mentor long after they left Fisk. Marco recently walked through the exhibit with senior producer Steve Harouche, and it's clear that for him, being a Jubilee singer was a profoundly influential experience.
Mercy, how beautiful. And it's nice to just see artifacts, toured. When we would perform with the Jubilee singers, we would reenact what we called the portrait. And the portrait would have just these names: Maggie Porter, Ella Shepherd, Thomas Rutling, and some of the other singers. But Edmund Watkins, who we stand in front of right now, was my guy. And so, as I remember, I was born in Coosa County, Alabama in 1850. My father was sold when I was very young, and my mother took care of me. We worked in the cotton fields where I had to pick 200 pounds of cotton a day. And after the war, my master refused to pay me and continued to threaten me. From there, I escaped to Talladega, Alabama, where I nearly starved as a railroad worker. While there, I hired myself out for 50 cents a day. Perfect example. We would embody the story. We would dress like them, so we would have, the period clothes of the time, and you would just engage, But it was awesome because then a few singers would kind of tell their story, and then we would gather in song. We would sing, Steal Away, or other songs that the original singers would have sung as well.
What do you think Dr. Kwami would think to see this museum and this exhibit?
To be honest, I think the first thing that he would do is say, "Glory to God." That man was so full of faith. He would just honor the Lord, because God is good. Big up to Shannon Sanders, who co-produced the album celebrating Fisk that got us the Grammy Award. He and Dr. Kwami had a long-standing relationship. He adored Dr. Kwami, and Dr. Kwami absolutely adored him too. And he's also engaged to singers, even past Dr. Kwami's death, and in various ways. And it's just amazing to see how many people loved Dr. Kwami.
I grew up in Ghana. I grew up into a musical family. I can remember in my very early years, my father, who was a music teacher, we had a piano at home, would sit at the piano playing music, but then he would have me sit on his lap and would play a beautiful tune, which I still remember. But because he was a music teacher, he was a choral director, a church musician, and a composer, I hung around him a lot. Whenever he was playing piano at home by himself, I would stand around and watch and enjoy his music. Whenever he went to teach his students, I followed him, watched him conduct, listened to beautiful music performed by his students. And then whenever he had to prepare for Sunday morning services, he would practice hymns at home. But I always observed him and learned a lot from him. So I regard him as my first music teacher because he taught me piano at home, taught me music theory at home. He also actually introduced me to violin playing at home. He did introduce me to trombone at one time, but I did not make much time for that. And of course, my mother was always around to support everything that I did. For example, when my father gave me piano assignments and I had to practice, well, there were times I had a choice, either to practice piano or play soccer with my friends. My mother would remind me to practice, and then I would go and practice. So yeah, she had a part to play in my success.
For more than 150 years now, the right combination of human voices have come together to form the Fisk Jubilee Singers. I asked Dr. Kwami, does he always find every voice he needs?
I am never satisfied at the end of an audition with what I get. I don't remember ever having enough of the quality of voices that I desire. When students walk in to audition, I am generally able to determine the voice part that they would sing. Some people come in and I may position them for two voice parts, maybe a soprano and alto. But then when I do the callbacks, then I'm able to finally decide on the voice part that each person should sing. I remember when Mandisa came.
You might remember that name. Mandisa made it to the top 10 on American Idol back in 2006.
If she hears this, she'll still laugh. But when she came to audition, I was very impressed with her singing. She sang a beautiful melody, a spiritual, but because I was impressed and wanted to know much more about her abilities, I raised the pitch, step higher. She sang it comfortably. I raised the pitch again, another step. She sang it comfortably. That, for example, I knew would be a soprano. And so she was. But yeah, there are times when some voices come and I'm not able to determine immediately that this person will be a tenor or a bass. It usually happens with the female voices, yes. But I did mention also that I never end an audition having all the voices that I need. I'm always short. I'm always going back looking, where can I find another tenor? Where can I find a bass? Where can I find another alto? Now, there was one year I completed auditions and needed one more bass. And it just happened that I was walking on campus and saw a young guy and mistook him for somebody else. And so I greeted this guy. Then he responded, and his voice, bass. So I stopped. We did not know each other, and I introduced myself and asked why he did not audition. And he said he doesn't sing. But he had that nice speaking voice, so I invited him to my office and had him go through some vocal exercises. Yes, he never took any voice lessons, but he had a voice quality that I thought I could use. But even more importantly, he had a nice attitude, which was important to me. So I invited him to become a member of the ensemble. Honestly, he was one of the most faithful Fisk Jubilee singers during his tenure.
Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me.
Yes, give me
that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. Give me that old time religion. It's good enough for me. It was good.
Most of them have sung in churches and in school choirs and enjoy singing. It's very interesting when sometimes after concerts, when we get on bus, have to drive back to the hotel or even back to campus here, they just break out into singing. I said, can't you be quiet after all this sing? But singing is something that they just love. Somebody will start a tune and then everybody will join in, and they love it.
My grandmother, it was good for my grandmother. It was good for my grandmother. It's good enough for me.
Yes, give me
That old time religion.
When we talk about some of the people who are graduates of Fisk University and the things that they did along the way, those stories are not just limited to the United States. People hear about these stories. So when we talk about people like John Lewis, the late John Lewis, or Diane Nash, and others who joined them, things would not be the way they are now. But I believe it is important for people to realize that although Fisk is a very small institution, one of the HBCUs, Fisk has had and continues to have a very powerful presence in the history of the United States.
It was good for Paul and Silas.
I would like to see another 150 years. I would also like to see younger generations of people all around the world to get to understand and appreciate the beauty of the Negro spirituals. And when I talk about the beauty, I would include the lyrics, the beautiful melodies that our ancestors left for us.
It's good enough for me.
Yes, give me
That old religion. It's good enough for me. Yes, give me that.
Banner & Company is a production of the New Nashville Banner. This episode was produced, edited, and mixed by me, with additional production by Steve Harouche. The original music is by Verlin Thompson. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or go to NashvilleBanner.com. You're in good company.